Hello and welcome back to Tech Unfiltered. I'm your host, Ariel. Today we're going to be talking about isolation in social media with our guest and Facebook whistleblower, Arturo Béjar. I'm going to let Arturo explain for himself what he saw and why he decided to release it. But one of the most important takeaways that you should know is that Meta knew about these problems and decided to do nothing about it. Here's one of the big questions that we ask. Does social media actually make us feel more connected to our friends? Or is it more isolating than it is helpful? Here's what we do know. Young people aged 16 to 24 report feeling lonelier than any other age group. One report shows that 73% of Gen Z reports feeling lonely sometimes or always. That's way too much for a social connection app. This has big impacts too. Another report found that loneliness can be as harmful to the human as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. When we think about social media, it's not measured in connection, it's measured in likes and clicks and shares that don't always equal real human connection. So we're building something that's not being measured by what it's meant for. That doesn't add up. So, after my conversation with Arturo and Francis, both of the whistleblowers that we had on our series, I decided to try it for myself. I took No So November's challenge, or a challenge made by Maddie Freeman to log off of all social media apps for 1 month. And I'm telling you, it was difficult. It was also really worth it. I found that I was able to think better. I felt better about the state of the world and the people in it. I found I was spending more time with my friends. I felt more social and I felt less stressed out all the time. It's an amazing challenge and I'm going to put her link right over here if you're interested in doing it. Remember, it doesn't have to happen in November. You can log off at any point. It's really hard and a unique pressure of being a young person to still feel isolated while seeing everyone else all the time at any time. One of the things that makes me feel like social media isn't actually built for social connection is how hard it is to get social media out of our experiences online. We're constantly having to update, to filter, to say, I don't want to see this and I want to see more of this. And the metrics that these companies are tracking are not about how connected we are. It's about their bottom line. It's about the likes and the comments and the shares and the ad revenue that they get. They're not tracking social connection because it's not a social connection app. It's a social media app. It's just a way for these companies to make money off of us. And truth be told, they don't deserve our attention. To understand that, and to also think about my life as I spent 1 month off of social media, I did some math. There are varying reports of how much time Gen Z spends online looking at videos, and the LA Times reports that it's 7.2 hours per day. The National Geographic reports that it's 6 hours per day. Let's be conservative and go with 6. And let's do some math. Now, 6 hours per day is 2,190 hours per year. That's a lot of time. The total amount of hours in, say, 60 years is 131,400 hours. That equates to 15 years of your life. And even if we shorten it, let's say it's not 60 years, let's say it's just the past 10 years, that number becomes 2.5 years out of the past 10 years that you've spent scrolling. And it's not your fault. I do it too. It's because of the way that these algorithms have been set up to make us addicted and to keep us more and more isolated. I want to speak to the importance of whistleblowers and why people like Arturo are so important in coming forward against big tech. Arturo went to the top of Meta and was told that what he was seeing doesn't matter and didn't require any action. It's important that he shared what he found with us because we, as young people, as policymakers, as the general public, benefit from the knowledge that we don't otherwise get. Big tech is not volunteering this kind of information without being forced to, and without brave people like Arturo coming forward and talking about it. The Signals Network, which is a whistleblower support organization, actually did a study about big tech whistleblowers. The way that they introduced it was that in January of 2024, 5 big tech CEOs stood up in front of the Senate to talk about what was happening on their platform. Design It For Us was in the room. And that hearing, according to the study, would not have happened without whistleblowers. In an industry that's unregulated and thrives on a no transparency model, whistleblowers are incredibly important for informing us what's actually happening behind the scenes. This study, done by the Signals Network, said this, quote, "Big tech's quest for secrecy has contributed to an overall black boxing of the tech sector to the point that tech companies now carry a fundamental opacity to outsiders." The study that they cited, a Harvard study from 1999. Now, in 2026, not much has changed. In sum, whistleblowers are incredibly important to understanding why big tech is the way it is and pulling the curtain back on their business practices. These companies' business models are not promoting human connection, it's promoting their bottom line. And so the more information we have to have these conversations, the better off we are in fighting it. I feel indebted to the whistleblowers and the information that they have brought to light, sometimes at a personal cost. Here to have a conversation with me about isolation, social media, and whistleblowing is Arturo Béjar. Hey y'all, welcome back to Tech Unfiltered. I'm here today with Arturo Béjar, and we are talking today about why we feel isolated sometimes as young people, right? We spend our time online, we spend our time on social media, and we still feel isolated, even though it's supposed to connect us to other people. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So let's start off. I would love for you to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what brings you to this work.
Yeah, so a while ago in around 2009, I started working at Facebook, and I was the person in charge of how do you protect and take care of everybody who uses Facebook. And that meant dealing with things like bullying and all the way through to like suicidal ideation, customer support, stopping all the hackers and the spammers, all that stuff. And during that time, it was very different. We did a lot of work to understand what are kind of the mechanisms that drive how people relate to each other online. And so we learned a lot about that. And then a few years later, I went back and I found that Facebook wasn't doing the stuff that it used to do, that Instagram was actually pretty rough sometimes, and that the company knew and wasn't doing anything about it. And so I became a whistleblower.
And what were you talking about, right? So you became a whistleblower. What did you release?
So what we found is that we did this large-scale study, a few 100,000 people, and you do that because it shows you a picture of everybody who uses Instagram. And in that, we found that like 1 in 8 13 to 15-year-olds get unwanted advances every 7 days. So in the last 7 days, that like 1 in 5 get unwanted sexual content. And by that, we really mean like when you're scrolling and you see something and you go like, that's kind of gross and not for me, and you kind of scroll away from it. Violent, just all the bad stuff. And that it was happening to 1 in 5, 1 in 4. I mean, just the numbers were incredibly high in the last 7 days. And these are all things that are not necessary and could be fixed by the company. So I took that all the way to the guy who runs Instagram, Adam Mosseri, and to Mark Zuckerberg, who runs Meta. In a nutshell, I found that they knew and that they were choosing not to do anything about it. And so, yeah, it's pretty grim.
Wow. So you took this information, right, that, young people aged 13 to 15 are getting unwanted sexual advances, are getting, harmful content online. You took this to the heads, essentially, of social media, right? Facebook, Meta, Instagram conglomerate are huge players in this space. You took this to the top, and they said, we know and we don't care. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they said we know, and they didn't do anything, which means they don't care, right?
Right.
I mean, imagine they're like one of the most accomplished technology companies of our time. It's insane what they're able to do when they set their mind to it, but also if they don't care, I mean, you can see it, right? I mean, when was the last time any one of these things happened to anybody watching this, right? And whenever I talk to young people, everybody's like, yeah, it's kind of the way it is. And it's like, and they know better than us, right? Because the work really, if you're going to do it well, is to ask young people about their experience, about the bad stuff that they have to deal with. And then you make the work to make that like unlikely, right? In a way that protects privacy and speech and everything. You can totally do that, but you start by listening to young people, and that's what they're not doing.
Right. Talk to me about, you say you talk to young people and they say, oh yeah, like this is just the way that it is. Talk to me about that feeling, right? Like for me, one of the things that I see is when I talk to other young people, it's like, oh yeah, like this is the way it is. Like I know it should be different. I know it should be better. But I just don't really know how to get there. What would you say to those young people?
That they're like totally right. I mean, I think that the products are designed in a very specific way where if you come across something that's not for you and you watch it, you get more of it. Imagine that it would be as easy to dislike something as it is to like it, right? Like a dating app. You could be like, yep, that's good. Oh, that's great. That's wholesome. I love it. Oh, no, 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 right? If it was as easy as that, then when you got content that made you kind of feel gross about anything, you could just be like, yeah, that's not for me. And ideally, they would be like, do you want to tell us more? And you're like, no, I'm fine. Or no, actually, that's kind of pretty, like, it really bothers me. Because when you look at the kind of content that really gets to people, right, on things about body image, or maybe you're having a bad day, or just went through a breakup, or like all these things that happen to all of us all the time. The content is not anything that you could like write a rule to say, don't show any of that content to anybody ever. It's not about that. But these are the masters of personalization, right? They know you watch something, and within minutes, they show you more of it. If they use that intelligence to say, don't show me some stuff, that would take care of some of the bad stuff. The other bad stuff is kind of like the interactions that you can have with people, where like in comments or messages and stuff, they can do stuff that's again really upsetting. And they don't offer any help. Again, they could. Media companies actually used to offer help in those circumstances, but they don't anymore. And so people feel like, well, this is important for me because my community, things I care about, are all there, but they're woven in with a bunch of awful stuff, and there's nothing I can do about it. And you know what? It's kind of true.
One of the things that we talk about is social media is this amazing place, right, where we can connect to people, learn new ideas, become active in issues that we care about. There are really big opportunities for community online, and at the same time, we get all this unwanted content. And exactly like what you were saying earlier, right? When we view content that we maybe don't understand, that we think is shocking or surprising, there's a high emotional value attached to it, we are sometimes shown more of it over and over again because it elicits a reaction from us. We spend more time on the platform, and then we make these platforms more money. So being in this really vicious cycle is really difficult. One of the things that I'm interested in exploring and talking about is isolation, right? How sometimes these platforms, these algorithms make young people feel more isolated. So just off the bat, any thoughts, reactions to that?
I mean, the fundamental problem is that it's intrinsic to electronic communication. So imagine you're in a group chat and somebody subs a message that's upsetting to you in some way, makes you self-conscious, whatever happens. You know, when we're talking with each other and that happens, you kind of have a little reaction and the other person picks up on it. And we're evolved to regulate each other's emotions. So you kind of talk to each other and you kind of level each other out. Think about any time something grim has happened and you're with a friend, and then how you kind of how much easier it is to navigate that. Instead, if you're on your own, right, you could be in a room full of people, you check your phone and you see a message and it's something that's upsetting, and you're alone like that. And you're alone with your emotions, with your machine. There's nobody to help you regulate. And it's really tricky, right? And this happens to all of us. It's intrinsic to when you see a post or you look at something, and the only way around it is to create things that facilitate that connection where you can regulate with somebody else. And the best way to do it is in person because we have like a million ways we connect with each other, above like the tone of our voice, our eyes, our body language, all these other things. And it's great in video, but it's better in person.
You're absolutely right. So there was this study that was done over the pandemic that showed like in-person connection is more valuable than digital connection because like, and I'm someone who like really loves chatting with people face to face because I feel like I can read body language, like the timing is right, like I can understand like their eyes and like their body signals. Like that's a lot of information that I feel like we miss out on. I think you're so right with talking about the feeling like you're alone with your emotions and a machine. Like that is like such a perfect way to put it because I there have definitely been moments where I've been scrolling online and I don't know, like I like see a video, it like makes me feel bad about myself, and then I just kind of like look up, I'm like, oh, I'm I get this feeling where I'm the only person that had a negative reaction to that video. And I know statistically that's very unlikely because right the algorithm shows us videos that elicit a strong emotional reaction. But it feels like that. Like it feels really isolating. I'm like, oh, whoa. Like, are y'all seeing this? Y'all is in like no one else in the room, like my stuffed animals. Like it feels bizarre.
It's the nature of the medium, right? And so you're gonna see something and have a reaction. You're gonna think it's just you, and then there's nobody to be like to help you sort of navigate that. And then the other thing is when these things began, right? When I interviewed with Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg and the people who founded what's now Meta, the promise back then was really different. The promise was this is intended to make you feel connected to all of your friends. So it's only about people that you know in person. And the idea is that you can kind of see where your friends are at and what the things that they want to share so that you have a better connection because you don't write to your friends every day. You don't, there's all the things that you do for like the larger circle of friends. And so the goal was to make it more connective between people. But when you create something that is not measured by that, right? What they measure is how much time you spend, how many people are using Reels, how much time spent is on Reels, how many times do you open a notification that you get, and that when that's what you measure and that's what you build, human connection goes. And so if they you could create something, imagine just what it would be like again. And so people they manage this. They have like good close friends lists and they kind of like you try to go in and every time you open Instagram, if that's what you use, you say, okay, show me the people I follow. I mean, if you use it, but they make you work for it, and that's so wrong, right? Because they want you to be like all the time. And sometimes you're doing it to be like soothing. You're kind of a little stressed out, and you're like, I'm just gonna like scroll for a little while to feel better. And then you get something that makes you feel like, oh, that doesn't feel so great. And you really have to ask yourself as best you can, how do I feel after I scrolled for a while? And then how do I feel when I like hang, right? And how do I feel when that stuff happens? And how and it's kind of that's kind of the work. And they're again so not helping. They're on the opposite side of this. They're designing things that make it easy for people to misunderstand, argue, and fight each other. Ask things of each other that you would never ask each other in person, like all the unwanted sexual advances.
Right, and part of that contributes to people being isolated, right? Young people aren't learning how to, develop strong and healthy friendships, develop strong and healthy relationships, which are all things that take time, take trust and patience, right? And so when you connect people and put people in whose brains and minds are developing in kind of this like pressure cooker of socialization and opportunity, yeah, the design means that they're gonna start talking to each other in a really disrespectful way, right? Because we're like, oh, well, like this is so easy. I think about this a lot in the context of like dating apps too. I think dating apps are one of the scariest things for human connection because I think it has taught us to commodify each other, right? And treat each other like, oh, like if I don't like this option, I can get this option. If I don't like that option, I can get that option. The conversations I've had with my friends are really striking. Like you lose so much personal connection. And again, it goes back to the design because a lot of these companies, organizations are profiting off of people going back to the app. Like there are like all these jokes online where it's like, oh, like Hinge or like Tinder are never going to show you the people that you want or that you're likely to match with because it keeps you looking for, a good match through their platform, which is so like disrespectful to human like emotion and life. Like I think it's just so concerning. And it goes back to exactly what you said about working for it, right? Now we have to work for our social connection on social media. And I really dislike that.
It's terrible, right? And it's again the it's in the design of all of these things. And if you get one thing out of this conversation is like, well, it's more than one thing, but here I go. You're not alone. Notice how you these things make you feel, and then like where possible, go find somebody to talk about that, right? Or like again, the antidote to all of these things is connection. Ideally, if you can swing it in person, if not like FaceTime, just like quality connection, right? Because it's kind of like one of the things that uplifts us, helps us navigate everything, just is all full of goodness. It's just a good connection with another person. And sometimes you have to ask yourself, is the way that I'm kind of doing this pushing me apart or bringing me closer together? And if you're noticing it's pushing you apart, then do the things that bring you closer together, right? And you know, for now, you're not getting any help from the platforms. They're on the opposite side of that. Like, how insane is it that like they're recommending AI chatbots as friends, right? It's like really that's how wrong is that, right? And so I think that ultimately, sort of dating apps and social media apps and all these things, they're designed to keep you on there, keep you swiping all the time as much as possible, give them money where they can, right? All these other things. And that's what drives them. And so if you want something different, then you kind of have to use it really intentionally, which you can, and it's work. But if you're not feeling good about your use, if you're not feeling about the stuff you're getting recommended, if you're feeling of having these awful experiences, then you have to take the matters into your own hands and trust yourself, trust what you're feeling, listen to it, attend to it, and that will help you find the way.
That's huge advice. I think my 13-year-old self would have really used that advice, right? Of like knowing that what I'm experiencing online is not in isolation, right? And what you said exactly, right? Know that you're not alone, right? That other young people are going through this and feeling this. Notice when it's happening and talk about it when it's happening. I think that is huge. You can talk about it with anyone. You can talk about it with your friend. You could talk about it with a family member, with someone at school. You could talk about it like to like a journal or to like a notes app, right? Like express it within yourself. So there are a lot of opportunities to kind of tap into why we're feeling the way that we do. And what I'm hearing from you is that the more that we acknowledge and kind of notice when we're feeling this way, the better equipped we are to know it in the future, right? And be like, oh, I'm feeling more lonely right now. Like, let me talk about this with someone, right? Like, let me have these conversations. So I think that's huge.
And be gentle as you do it, right? Because we all go into rabbit holes. We all do these things. It's human. It's such a powerful design. It's very compelling. Sometimes we need it to soothe, right? And just want to be sort of very attentive to that. But always keep an eye, if not during, sometimes after, if you can during, about how something's making you feel. If you're looking at something and then you look at the mirror and you kind of feel bad about yourself and your body, right? Then that's a really good marker. If you find yourself hooked or really upset by some kind of online conversation, no, it's not you, or you're not alone, right? Like again, this being alone with your emotions, we've evolved to regulate with each other. This is how humans are, right? And just that little acknowledgement noise you made, and it's magic, right?
Right.
And it's there to be had if we just kind of like sometimes focus on each other rather than focusing on these machines that are in front of us so much of the time.
Right. I could not possibly say it better, right? That like we exist to co-regulate with each other, and not to allow social media to take that away. And I mean, huge plus one to what you said, right? Like being kind, being gentle with ourselves about, about doing this. This is hard. Like what we're talking about right now is hard work. And it takes much more effort to go out, find connection, to think about the ways in which we're connecting than it does to just be online. And sometimes that's okay. Like I do that sometimes. Sometimes at the end of a really long day, I like go home, go into my bed, scroll online. And like that's a choice that I consciously make because I get some value from it. But knowing the ways in which it's kind of connected to the larger parts of our life, knowing that, okay, like if I'm seeing something I don't like, I should talk about it with my friends. Like that's huge. So it's about finding a really meaningful balance. And I couldn't have possibly said that better myself. Thank you so much for being here, for chatting, for sharing your advice and your expertise. If people want to engage with you, do you have a website, or where can they find you?
So I have a website, and you can like send me a message there. I try to go through them. Highest on my priority to people to respond to is young people, and every time I engage with somebody, it reaffirms my faith in the world and the future. And it's like working with you and working with the Senate for us is to me like always a highlight, because I feel that the future is in good hands.
Oh, thank you.
And so yeah, feel free to reach out that way. And I'm also on LinkedIn and check those lists frequently. But yeah, happy to get questions and work with those.
Awesome. Arturo, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Tech Unfiltered. Thank you to Arturo for being here, and we'll see you on the next episode.